Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to take a second to introduce the Chem 29B lab course. Again, hopefully you got here by clicking start here and then the next tool. Again, this is just going to be how we're going to navigate through Canvas. This is where the video was posted. Next thing you want to do is download and look through the syllabus. Most of the policies are the exact same as in the 28A. The 28B course, so I don't want to go through this explicitly again. The one place you might want to take a look is under the assignments section, give you an idea of the type of assignments that will be due and their point value. However, this semester being online in an organic chemistry lab course is a little weird. And let's actually just take a look at the schedule real quick. Well, office hours, again, my whole spiel about always going to be available to meet outside of office hours. Please hit me up. Here's the Zoom link, all that good stuff. But yeah, taking a look at the schedule real quick. One thing that I want to say is obviously being at home is not super duper conducive to laboratory learning, right? So we've really had to scramble. To be perfectly honest, there was a petition that I made to have in-person labs this semester. That kind of seemed like it was a little bit promising at first, but then got rejected. So I really attempted to have us back in lab with some social distancing and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, we're terrible at this coronavirus thing, and things are about 100 times worse now than they were even last semester. So we just find ourselves in a position where we have to be at home. The one thing that we are going to have are expanded lab kits. So our lab kits will include not only the glassware and everything like that, but also a few chemicals so we can really do some real organic chemistry. Everything kind of been vetted to be relatively safe for home use. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to it. But yeah, so the one thing, just looking at the schedule, really today, the only thing you got to focus on is this sort of introduction. There are 2 assignments that I'll get to here in a second. They are basically just about you acquiring the correct materials and preparing for next week, which is when you will pick up your lab kits. So this week, we're working to put together these lab kits. Again, they're a little bit more intense in terms of the content that they have. We have to actually give you guys material. So yeah, they're just a little bit more involved than last semester. So we're going to take a week to put those kits together. And then next week is when you will pick up your lab kits from Fresno City, okay? And then how this semester is going to look is really going to be similar to last semester with a little bit more emphasis on those at-home experiments. But it's going to have to be a combination of these video type labs, where you watch somebody do an experiment and you're recording your notebook as it goes, graphical analysis type labs, or, I guess analysis heavy type labs where you're given the results of an experiment and your job is to sift through that data and come to meaningful conclusions. One more of those VR labs from North Carolina State, which is kind of cool. And then a few in-person labs as well. At-home labs. So, and in particular, you'll see that they are all actually broken down into 2-week periods. So aspirin, banana oil, aldol condensation. Don't worry, we'll know what an aldol is here when we get to it. An unknown mixture. Those are all going to be labs that you do at home with your lab kits. The reason that they're broken into 2 weeks is because the first week, what you're going to do is perform the experiment, right? Using your glassware, using the material we give you. The one thing that you really miss out on that we can't do at home that for the second semester of organic chemistry is the analysis, right? Nobody's got a GC or an NMR sitting in their kitchen. So what's going to happen is you're going to perform this experiment and then you're going to have to drop off your sample, your product that you obtain at FCC, and we'll run it for you and give you your results back, right? So for the Aspen Lab, you're going to have to do an IR analysis. So you're going to have to do this synthesis of aspirin. You're going to get your product, and then you're going to drop it off at FCC through we'll do like this contactless drop off sort of thing. But just make a note, week 7, week 10, week 13, and week 16, you will be required to drop off a sample at FCC's campus. You will then be given the data to perform the subsequent analysis on that. That's kind of the best that we can do given this situation, right? There's only certain things that we can have you have at home. We really poured through to make sure that everything could be safe for experiments you could do in your kitchen and stuff like that. But we need to learn how to analyze data. We need to learn how to analyze mass spec data, NMR spec, NMR, yeah, I guess it is spec data, IR spec data, all these things. So, and that's part of the beauty of organic chemistry lab is you would do this sort of synthesis and then be able to turn around and put that product in a machine to get your analysis results. Well, again, clearly nobody has that machine at home. We're still going to go through that process. That's our goal this semester, is to really try to make this as meaningful of a learning experience as we can in the absence of an organic chemistry lab. Okay. Some of these other labs, the competing nucleophiles, as well as the benzene directors, those are going to be video type experiments that are going to be analysis heavy, where you're sort of just given the results. There's not that, what we call a wet lab component. But yeah, the one thing about sort of just to bring it back that I was sort of saying is each one of these labs is very different. Unlike before in person, where basically week after week we were taking an experiment out of our lab book and completing it, each one of these labs is going to be their own unique thing. So most of them will have a pre-lab component, most of them will have a notebook component, but maybe they don't all have a notebook component because it just doesn't make sense because somebody else has already done the experiment. Or there's a graphical analysis component where you're basically given a spreadsheet, so there's nothing really to write. Some of them might have a pretty slim post-lab. Some of them might have 3 or 4 post-lab components. Each thing is going to be kind of very different, and it's just us trying to make the best of this situation that we have. The good news is you'll always have 7 days to do it, and you will always have the due dates and the points values given to you well in advance, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm sorry that I can't give you a very clear picture of we're going to do this lab, then this lab, and this lab, and each one's going to have this many points, this many points, this many points with this assignment, this assignment. Everything's going to be a little bit different. You just going to have to roll with the punches with me this semester. I promise that, again, everything you'll have at least a week to do. And yeah, it'll be fun. We'll actually get to do some real organic chemistry at home. You know, even given that we're stuck in our houses, we'll have the proper glassware and even get some of the correct analysis techniques as well being performed. So sort of excited. I know last semester especially was very last minute in terms of how things were arranged. This one's we really have some good experiments picked out, but nonetheless, yeah. So stay tuned for all that. Your big goal for if you notice those first 2 weeks, we're sort of not doing much other than glassware pickup. There's 2 big things that you're going to need to figure out in these next 2 weeks. And this is actually a plan that you have to submit this week is your lab kit pickup plan, right? So next week, all 5 days of the week, 12 to 2, you can go to campus and pick up your lab kits. I want to know what your plan is. That's your assignment for this week, is to tell me I'm going to be there on Tuesday at 1 p.m. to pick up my lab kit, all that good stuff. So make your plan for how you're going to get to campus to pick up your lab kit this week. The other big thing that we need that we can't give you in a lab kit is a scale, or ideally a balance, but really it's going to be a scale. We have to have a balance in order to do any sort of assessment of whether our synthesis was correct or not correct, how much material we're using, theoretical yields. This is something we didn't have last semester, and we had some creative other ways to get around percent yields and stuff like that, right? This semester, we're going to require that everybody get a digital scale. There is if you follow this link, it'll take you to Amazon, where there is a really nice digital scale that's like $12 or something like that. The important thing is the precision, that it goes to 0.01 grams or better, meaning even lower than that. So 0.001 grams, a milligram, that would be fantastic. But yeah, unfortunately, I have a kitchen scale. Maybe other people do if you're a baker or something like that. Unfortunately, those scales tend to be tuned for masses in like the 50 to 100 to 300 grams. Nobody uses 0.01 grams of flour when they're baking, right? So Those sort of kitchen scales aren't usually tuned down to the lower end of the mass spectrum, which is what we're going to need here. But this is the one material outside of your lab book that you're going to have to acquire this semester, is this scale. So please make sure you do that. You have to submit, the assignment here is to submit a proof of purchase, something just saying, hey, I bought it. You know, we're going to give you these lab kits free of charge, all that glassware and all that material free of charge. This is the one big expense that you have to cover yourself. I'm teaching another chemistry class, 3B, and their lab kits are like 150 bucks. So you guys really do luck out in terms of the cost of the glassware and the other material that you're going to get. But again, the one thing that we need to be able to do meaningful chemistry are these digital scales, okay? So that's your goal for this week. Next week, your goal is to drive to campus and actually pick up your lab kits. And then we're going to start in on some real deal organic chemistry lab. But there is a little bit of a grace period here while both we get our stuff together on the stockroom end of things, as well as for you guys to get yourself prepared, okay? So hang tight with me. I know that this is not an ideal setting for conducting organic chemistry lab, but we're really going to make the best that we can, make the best of the situation that we have here. All right, so I'm excited for this semester. Hopefully everybody's excited to get their hands on some real organic chemistry. And yeah, all right.